Welcome to Reality Hunt Club. Now in this episode we're going to talk about our quality deer management plan. As you can see, I'm filming this from my home office. Now we consider this our paperwork episode because it's going to be dealing with all the necessary paperwork we go through to put a management plan together. Now during the course of the year we're always looking and evaluating our current plan in order to learn from it and also to make notes as to what works and what doesn't work so we can make these changes in the future hunting season's management plan. And we're going to go over that today. Now we've got a copy of our 2011-2012 management plan on our website, which is realityhuntclub.com. You can go and download a Word document of it or a PDF of it. If you want to see how we put ours together, go ahead, and if you want to use it and change it and use it for your own club, that's okay with us. Before we talk about our quality management plan, I want to tell you about our club. As mentioned in previous episodes, our club is just finishing the 7th season. We currently have about 1,900 acres, which we lease from 3 private landowners and 1 timber company. We're located in middle Georgia. I'm not going to say exactly where we're located, just for security, and I want to protect our club. Our club is made up of mostly planted pines with hardwood bottoms. We have about 50 acres worth of food plots that we can plant. We currently have 10 members sharing the cost of our hunting club. All our current members live at least 2 hours away from the club and considered professionals in their job career. So we have no locals just constantly beating up the club with activity. Our club philosophy is let the young bucks walk, keep the doe to buck ratio as close to 1-to-1 as possible. We try to only shoot 3.5, but we prefer to shoot 4.5 or older. This area has been known to produce some nice bucks, but our goal is the 140 inch, like I was talking about. So 4.5 should be 140, 145. Of course, any bell curve you can get, you're gonna have a 4.5 that's 160. You're gonna have a 4.5 that's 120. So what our club considers a quality buck is a 140 inch 4.5-year-old. We currently have about 18 tower stands, and we have a bunch of ladders and bow stands. I don't exactly know what the number of those are. And of course, from the past episode, you know that we believe in our trail cameras. We use them as our primary way of measuring our management plan during the year. You couple that with our, as we hunt in the stands and what bucks we kill and what, deer we observe. That's how we measure the effectiveness of our plan. Now let's talk about our 2011-2012 plan. Now, as mentioned before, we split it up into 2 sections. One is the supplement feed program and the other one is the food plots. Now I'm going to go over the supplement feed program first. Now our plan involves running 10 feed stations year-round. These feed stations are strategically placed around our hunting club to draw the deer and turkeys into our property and to keep them there. Now the past year we've run just corn in our spinner feeders, and we basically spread less corn in late spring during the summer because of the green brow and all the green growth from the springtime and also the agricultural crops. The deer just seem to eat that a lot more than coming to a feeder to eat corn. Now when the fall starts coming on, they start rubbing their velvet off the horns. The deer start trying to put on that additional weight. They start looking for those carbohydrates. Then they will come to our feeders and start trying to put on that weight to get them through the winter. And also the bucks want to put on that additional weight just to get through the crazy rut. Now let me talk about our food plot plan. But really, before I can talk about next year's plan, we need to look back on last year's plan. Planning food plots for a hunter who is not familiar with farming can be very frustrating. This is one of the areas that we have learned the most from in our management plan. We have been planning food plots for the past 7 seasons, and at the end of every season, we always come up and look and say, you know what, we could have done this or we could have done that to make next year's plan better. The guys on TV selling the seeds make it look so easy. All it looks like you have to do is buy their seed and plant it. The next thing you know, you're going to have a food plot. It looks like just like on the bag. But that's not the case. If anybody's been planting food plots, you'll know that. So let's talk about last year. Starting with the good things that we learned about our spring summer planting. Last year was the first year we had sufficient money in our budget that allowed us to lime and use chicken manure fertilize in the food plots we were going to plant. Now, this really gave, of course, the pH levels were off. The fields that we have used in the past were used for cattle grazing. So obviously, the pH levels were out of whack. We had to break the pan level in the dirt to try to get moisture up. It's taken us 3 or 4 years just to get the land back to a reasonable pH level where the soil can actually produce. Okay. Now that's the time we planted. We have access to basically 3 tractors, and the power of the tractors range from 35 to 50 horsepower. Now, I consider these tractors medium size. You can pull 6 to 8 foot harrows, but when we're talking about planting 10, 15, 25 acres, you're talking about a long time to disc that up. So we actually met a guy, and he became our friend, of a local farmer. And he farmed, so he had all the farming industrial tractors and 18-foot harrows and stuff like that. So his job is actually he goes out and farms for other people. So we actually hired him to use one of his big old tractors with 18-foot harrows to disc up our land that we planted last May. And it worked out really well. It only took him about 3 hours to disc it up. And we basically planted 17 acres last year. And the seed bed was phenomenal. So what took him 3 hours, would have took us 12 to 16 hours with those smaller tractors. And the seed bed would not have been anywhere near as good as what he gave us. And the seed bed's important because when you go to drill your seed or broadcast your seed, that's the seed to soil contact that you need to get that plant up and out of the ground as quick as possible. So once he finished with making our disking it up and all this, we went in there with a seed drill and we planted our crops. Now, I really like this approach to our spring summer food plots because, like I said, it saved us a lot of time as well as worth the price. And us working 2 days to get a drill versus him getting it ready by the time we show up was really, really nice. And I think we're going to use that from now on. So basically we planted 5 acres of corn in April, and we planted 12 acres of soybeans, iron clay peas, and sunflowers in May. Now we did plant some acreage of soybeans that were just soybeans by themselves, and I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. The good about corn is we really grew a pretty decent crop. Each stalk had about 4 ears of corn on it, which is not bad considering it's dry land corn, and we had pretty good rain. Now, and the animals really nailed it. They really pulled the stalks down once the ears got mature. Now, the bad thing about the corn was it's very expensive to plant. You're talking about $500–600 for 500 acres of corn. It had to be sprayed and side dressed with nitrogen in order to get it get it up there to where it would produce corn. It also had to be cultivated a few times to get the weeds back. And basically growing that 5 acres of corn was very labor intense. We had to do a lot of tractoring to get it up there. Now, the good about the soybean mixture is we made some real good beans, but in some areas where we planted the mixture of beans and peas and sunflowers, we could not Roundup. Now, we hadn't had a plan on Roundup, but the weeds have gotten so worse. Like I said, most of this is either used as old power line, right-of-ways, and cattle pastures. So you're basically talking about areas that haven't been farmed long time. So you got all kind of different types of weeds and mixes of grasses. So we did plant about 6 acres of soybeans that didn't have the mixture of sunflowers and iron clay peas. So we went in there and we rounded up those. And in this video, I'll show you a video of that in a minute. But the bad thing was the soybeans mixture and sunflowers and iron clay peas. We couldn't round up because it'd kill the sunflowers and the iron clay peas. Well, what happened there was the weeds and the grasses took over, and it was still producing, but when the first drought came on, it just killed them off. It just starved them out. The weeds and the grasses survived, and the beans and peas and sunflowers just disappeared. It's unbelievable. Now here's some of the video that I just recently taken, which is in late January, of our standing soybeans that were planted by themselves and what we sprayed on Roundup that I just talked about in a minute. From this video, you can see that the beans are still on the dried out stalks. You can see a lot of the beans on the ground where the wind had been blowing them off, and you also can just see the deer tracks in this little 2-acre section of land, and you can just see how the deer are coming in there. It looks like a cattle trail. So what we learned? Well, we learned to ditch the corn because it's just too labor intense, and we learned to plant just the soybeans so we can round up and try to get our weeds and grasses under control. So basically this year's plan, we've designated 25 acres for soybeans to be planted after the 1st of May. And we're going to use that farmer guy, and he's going to tractor up our land for us. Now our goal is to plant enough acres of beans that the deer cannot eat it all during the summer, and we'll have a significant crop standing during the fall and late fall. Now, one more thing to note is corn has a nutritional value of about 10 to 11%, whereas the soybeans are about 22%. So you're talking about a lot more nutrition. Plus the soybeans, the deer can eat the green leaves as it's growing up. Now we're gonna plant this 25 acres, and if you see from the display I'm showing you on this video, that it's basically 3 big areas. It's 2 big fields and one big strip in the power line. Now we tried to plant smaller, anywhere from a ½ acre to an acre plots inside these wood lines and these road beds and food plots that we have on the club, but we just were not successful in the spring and summer. I mean, they come up 2 or 3 inches and the deer just hammer it, and they just eat it up. And another thing is they don't come up as well because the soil's not as good. We hadn't had a chance to work on the soil, but we quit doing it because we just cannot produce enough to where the deer keep the deer from eating it all up. Now that is it for our spring planting. Now let me talk about our fall planting plans. Last year we planted about 15 small food plots around our club around the 1st of October. Now some of these food plots are nothing but the roads, basically the road beds that we disked up and plant. And some of the food plots are areas that we had a bulldozer come in and push off, an existing logging deck where the loggers bring all the timbers when they're logging, and we pushed it off and able to make a food plot. I estimate all 15 of these food plots equal around 6 acres. Now we planted oats in most, and some we planted oats and a few in red clover mixed in that. The plan for the 2011-2012 season is to repeat basically the same plan. You can see these food plots in this Google Earth fly-through that I'm showing you now on the screen. These food plots are strategically placed around our club, and most of them have a tower stand for hunting on them. A few of them have ladders. So to sum up our plan, in general, we're going to plant soybeans in the spring, we're going to plant oats in the fall, and we're going to run 10 feed stations on different locations on the club all year round. Now this episode was a lot longer than I originally wanted to. I want these episodes to be 7 to 10 minutes long. But this episode, like I called it our paperwork episode, I just felt that we had to go over all this information. We introduced you to our club, our philosophy, we showed you around through Google Earth our lease, we showed you our management plan of last year, we talked about the management plan of this year. I just felt that we had to get it all out there so you guys could see what we had in store and where we came from and what we had in store. So stay tuned, and as each part of the months come by, we'll be implementing these plans, and we'll be shooting more videos and talking about them. You can see the food plots grow, and you can see where we succeed and where we fail. So stay tuned for later episodes of those. And thank you for watching Reality Hunt Club.